What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So what am I paying attention to today? So I saw this article, and I'm going to show you guys this. We're going to talk a little bit about this. So New York Times reporting says the Trump administration has offered roughly 2 million government employees the option to resign by February 6th and keep being paid until September 30th, a move that could significantly reduce the federal workforce. So we're going to talk a little bit about this because obviously there's some pros and cons to this, but when we're looking at, especially if you are an individual who is retired, if you're an individual who is currently receiving Social Security benefits, if you're an individual who falls under this elimination of weapon GPO and you're waiting for the Social Security Administration to administer the increases, you're going to want to stay tuned because this can be a disaster for the implementation of the Social Security Fairness Act. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video. And if you're watching this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, so let's get into this. So let's talk about it. So first off, I want to talk about who is eligible because not every federal employee is eligible for this. And so looking at who is eligible, the OPM said that all federal workers were eligible with the exception of military personnel, postal workers, and employees involved with immigration enforcement or national security. And this is really important here. It says individual agencies could also exclude specific staff members or positions from the offer, it said. And the it that they're referring to is this was a letter that was sent out to all federal employees. And so this is, I mean, for a federal employee that is already looking to leave, this is good for them because they can resign on February 6th or before February 6th, and they'll be able to get paid out until the fiscal year ends, so September 30th. And so it could be good for some people who are already planning to leave. Now, for those individuals who are staying, it's going to be terrible for them because you're going to have, and you will have some people take this offer. You're going to have some people take this offer. That means we're going to have staff shortages in a lot of these different government agencies, and that is going to hurt those people who are working. And I know I worked for county government, and we had staff shortages from time to time. It seemed like we were always short-staffed, but we had significant staff shortages from time to time because there was a high turnover rate. When it comes to law enforcement, there's always a high turnover rate. And so we would have to work harder if we were short on staff. And so now you have individuals in the federal government that will be leaving. They'll be resigning early, and that's going to put a big burden on the people who are still working. And they're going to have to do 2-3 times the amount of work that they were doing before for the same pay. And for morale, it will deflate morale. You're going to have people that are just going to be just upset, disgruntled, not wanting to work because they have to do so much work and they're not getting any extra money for it. And so that's one of the negative impacts of people resigning. Now, another thing, we have to look at Congress is the one that really has to approve this. The president has come out and said this, but guess what? Congress holds the purse. They have to approve paying out these people until September 30th. And so that could be another issue because you can have people that choose to resign, and guess what? They might not be getting their check. And so that's something else to be paying attention to. And when it comes down to it, they've made it really easy. In the letter, basically, it said all you need to do is send an email saying resign. That's all you have to do. No letters. You don't have to speak to anyone. All you need to do is send that email out. I guess send it to your boss. And so they're making it very easy, and they're enticing federal employees to resign. Now let's talk about the impacts to our economy as well as Social Security. So let's look at our economy overall. Our economy, if we lose, and they think that they could lose 5 to 10% of the federal workforce, those are people right now who go out to lunch and they go to the local shops, the dry cleaners, and all these, small mom and pop places that are around these federal agencies. They're going there, they're spending money, Now, if you have a reduction of 5 to 10%, that's going to be a reduction of money that's going into these different areas of the U.S., which is going to impact the economy. And the federal government is that has the largest workforce in the U.S. And so you can imagine that's going to have a major impact on our economy. Not to mention, when we're looking at Social Security, if you know how Social Security works, the FICA contribution, that is what helps pay out benefits, okay? Actually, 100% of that is going to pay out benefits. And the way that it works is if you are currently working, you're contributing 6.2%, your employer is matching that 6.2%, 12.4% is going to the Social Security Administration, and that goes to pay out benefits. That's how it works. And then to offset, because it's not 100%, so to offset what you can't get from the FICA contribution, they're taking from the two trust funds. That's how it's working. So if you reduce the workforce, that means you have less people that are contributing to the FICA contribution, which means that you're drawing on the trust funds even more because less money is coming in from FICA, so more money has to come from the trust funds. And they're talking right now in about 8 years, the trust fund will be completely depleted. And so if you look at this situation, you have people who are resigning after September 30th, they're no longer going to be receiving a paycheck, and so they're no longer going to be contributing to FICA, which means that we're going to see a drop-off when it comes to the amount of money that Social Security is able to collect in revenue so they can pay out benefits. And so that's a huge problem. It's going to be a huge problem. Not to mention, let's talk about services. And this is services across the board. If we have federal agencies that are short-staffed, they're not going to be able to provide the same services. And there's going to be a slowdown. So that means if you call them, you might have to wait a long time on the phone. If we have different agencies that inspect our food and things like that, then guess what? It could take longer, which means that we could see a food shortage as a result of that. There are a lot of things here that we need to really think about. And then when it comes to the Social Security Fairness Act, I talk about that on this channel. When we're talking about something like that, the implementation of it, if you have less people working in the Social Security Administration, then it's going to take a longer time for them to administer this. And already the Social Security Administration has said, look, we need more staffing, we need more funding. And what they're doing is they're offering people to resign early. And so that's going to really impact the moving forward of this proposal. And I guess the only real thing that we can look at, and I'll show you one more time, when it comes to government agencies, looks like they will have discretion when it comes to their staff. And so they can, some staff, they can say, we're not offering it to these staff because we need them, basically. So we'll have to see what happens moving forward. But I'm just looking at this. I don't know if this is the right time for us to be really trying to reduce our workforce. And then you also need to look at this. Now, I know they said national security, immigration, law enforcement, I guess, would fall under national security. I don't know how they're looking at that. But you have a lot of support staff. And I know we had support staff. I relied heavily on support staff when I was working. And when I'm talking about support staff, I'm talking about clerical staff. I'm talking about people who can answer the phones, people who basically can process your documents. If I write a report, it's processed. I don't process it automatically. I send it to my clerk, and my clerk takes a look at it, and then my clerk sends it to my boss, and then my boss takes a look at it, and then goes back to the clerk, and then the clerk goes ahead and sends it off. And when we're talking about court documents and things like that, you need to have someone look over those before it's just sent to the court to make sure that everything is properly aligned, as well as everything makes sense in the report. And so you might have support staff that might be able to go ahead and resign on February 6th, and that is going to slow down things, even if it's national security. And you have to look at it this way too. When it comes to law enforcement, they rely heavily on different agencies. And so it might be an agency that you might not think, okay, well, they have nothing to do with law enforcement or national security, but these federal agencies, these federal law enforcement agencies are going to rely on them for certain documents and things like that. And now they're going to have to wait for those documents because they're short-staffed. And so I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I think ultimately Congress is going to have to to answer to this or say something about this, because the funding is going to have to come from them. Those paychecks that are going out, it has to be approved by Congress. It can't. The president can't just say, okay, you know what? Yeah, we're just going to pay these people out, because the president doesn't have the money. The president doesn't have the purse. So we'll have to see what happens with this. But I would expect to hear some more about this. And you already have different unions saying, look, don't go for this. You have some Congress people telling the federal employees, don't go for this resignation. But another thing that the letter did say, which I think is troubling as well, it says that they're not guaranteeing jobs. So if you choose to stay, let's say you don't want to resign and you choose to stay, you could lose your job on top of this whole situation. So they're kind of telling you, you know, we're not guaranteeing that you're going to have a job. And so maybe you should consider resigning, because you'll have an opportunity to receive a paycheck until September 30th. Whereas if we lay you off, I don't know what they're going to offer at that time. And so I'm sure there are going to be a lot of federal employees that are going to be looking at this thinking, well, I don't know, am I going to be on the chopping block? And they might even hear the rumors that they're on the chopping block. And so they might resign as a result of that. So I want to know what you guys think about this. So let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.